So if everybody would please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I guess I can.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. We never have this many people. We have any, Joanne, do we have any items from folks that want to talk? Did we decide that? Would anybody like to address the board? For any reason? Other than those who are already talking on the agenda. If you would please fill one of those out and.
We're going to have one. I'll do it on this.
Okay.
Is there a printed agenda?
What's that?
Is there a printed agenda?
Yes. That's the copy. Sorry. So, if
I can dive in and come
sure,
back.
that would be awesome. Thank you.
A couple things. I'll try and be somewhat brief tonight, just because we've got a lot on the agenda, and I'm looking forward to Deer Park High School to share what they have for you. But a couple things. Number one, just want to say just how proud I was of Deer Park for what transpired here on Friday night, and just saying goodbye to a trusted and valued and just wonderful staff member, Nick Brown, and just the way that his community and staff members stepped up to honor him was a wonderful event, hard event for a lot of people, but for all the obvious reasons. I think when you lose someone who's done such a fantastic job with kids, that person's wife works in the system, and when you have a culture of care in your school district when something like that happens, it's incredibly impactful. So it was hard to, and it is hard to lose Nick. It was just, again, in ways that a number of our staff members stood up and honored him and his family was wonderful to be a part of. So that was great. Next item, it is conference week. So just one of those unique weeks in the fall and in the spring. I want to remind you that we have kind of an altered conference week this week. So as we go throughout the week, we're trying to avoid coming back to school on June 20th, which would be the day after Juneteenth. So that new federal holiday, based on the 3 days that we have out, we made some calendar modifications that I think are going to still allow us to get the most from the 180 days we have without having 4 or 5 kids show up on so at any rate, I think we're making really good use of this week. Really appreciate the work that our staff does in connecting with families and offering opportunities. So that traditional schedule, we're going to conference Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night, all day Thursday, but now half day Thursday, so Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, so those evening conference times. So lots of opportunities there for families to connect with each of the teachers of their students, and then we go on spring break. So exciting there. Wanted to let you know that Steve and I, one thing that he probably wasn't going to bring up tonight in terms of facilities, but something that Steve has been partnering with me on and with us on is land acquisition. So as it pertains to growth in this community in ways that we're really working hard to address the need for additional space, not only space classrooms, but space in which we can build classrooms. Steve has been partnering with one of our legal partners, Perkins Coie, who has been a firm that we have used on a number of occasions in the past as it pertains to real estate and land acquisition. So really working hard with Perkins Coie and the team there, who Steve had a conference call with last week. So as we begin to get some more specifics and particulars about the terms of that sale of the land that we're looking at, there are some elements that Steve and I will follow up with Perkins Coie attorney, but then also when we get the final contract and final terms and conditions from the city, we'll be able to dive into that and hopefully make some quick work of what's been a very long process. So just want to let you know that we're continuing to dive in there, continuing to dig in there, and we'll be able to obviously complete that process as soon as possible. Going to a couple things real quickly as part of the district update, something that's not on the agenda, but two things I did want for you to be aware of. In addressing the two of them, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Allman, Assistant Superintendent, who's going to talk a little bit about two items. We have a proposal on the table that I have mentioned to you briefly about an outdoor learning program connected to our homework program. She's got some more details that she'll share with you on that. And then just a quick update on where we're at with math adoption, since we're getting to the place where those materials are headed your direction for approval.
And part A to that is an introduction to our new HomeLink principal, Gretchen Hausman. Please help me welcome Gretchen Hausman to. We're very excited to have you, Gretchen. And as you know, she is coming after we did a thorough hiring process where we had a variety of stakeholders present for that hiring process. Gretchen did an outstanding job and is just very personable, very approachable, very caring. Came through the interview. She came back to visit for a finalist interview and then followed up with reference checks. And she's been principal at First Presbyterian Church for the last 4 years. So she survived also the pandemic in Spokane, and really excited to have her here and be a part of the HomeLink community. She's eager to jump in and excited to be here. And I think you'll be visiting tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So she is ready to jump in. So this is Gretchen. Gretchen, welcome to Deer Park.
Thank you.
Excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here, so thank you.
So that was part A. So part one, as Travis was saying, was the HomeLink outdoor program. Travis met with some folks, as he mentioned to you before, and expressed some concerns and had some questions around the expense and being off-site, the travel, and said some of the activities and objectives he was had some questions about that. So they went back, they did some research, they did some work together, and came back to us most recently, Travis and I both, to talk about. They were very attentive to the requests and the concerns that Travis had. So for one, they looked at the expense. Initially, they were looking at Camp Reed. They have since looked at Gifford, Camp Gifford. It's a little bit closer, more accessible, easier to travel to. Looked at the price. The price tag for Camp Reed was pretty high, so Gifford was much more reasonable. So when they did the cost analysis for that, they also looked at the participation process and wanted to make sure that they had that outlined. So they really went back and did quite a bit of homework after they had that feedback from Travis. So we're looking at a pilot for next year. So they came to us with a proposal. Really, I'm sharing this with you not to approve the curriculum or to approve the contents, but more about this is a unique program, something that's new to Deer Park. Learning is also off-site. So they are going to come to you probably to share more about their information mid to late April. So that's a bit on the HomeLink outdoor program. And then the next...
The only item that I'll add to you that just so you're aware that we're going to take care of, I think is an embedded component of this, is the fact that there's been a couple districts in our region that have kind of fallen into this trap and had to dig their way out. I'm going to connect with Brad Van Dyne, superintendent in the Loon Lake School District. The Camp Gifford actually on the north side of Deer Lake is actually in Loon Lake's attendance boundaries, and we will have some kids who are eligible, who are still of age that may or may not be in Loon Lake. But I know that there's been some examples of when districts to the south of us have set up programs in other districts' boundaries. It can be a bit of can end up in a turf war if you're not careful with it. So I don't believe that based on the 1 day a week that HomeLink's planning to do this, and based on the nature of the program, accessing a campsite, it's not as if they're accessing a building and doing a 5 day a week program inside another district's boundaries. So I don't see that Brad's going to have any issue with it, or Loon Lake's board would have any issue with it. But I do want to let you know that I'll make that phone call, and we'll work hard to connect with them and make sure they're aware of what's going on.
And one last piece of that, we're firming up the activities and making sure that we connect with Clear Risk around some of the activities that they're looking at engaging in, and making sure that those are good and sound before we come back to you all. And then the next piece we just firmed up today, we did the K-12 math review and adoption process. So we're firming up where the various schools would like to go and why they would like to go that direction. So we should be ready to go for a proposal to you by the end of April, beginning of May. So we're looking for the educators to come and share with you their experience and what they are recommending to you.
Items from the floor.
Folks, yeah. So we have two items for Peggy Cole. Coyle, sorry. I know you. Okay.
Did you straighten them out?
Sorry, Peggy.
Hi, then. Just quickly, my name is Peggy Coyle, and I've been here, I graduated from Deer Park in 1983, and then moved to Alaska and moved back down, got a degree at Eastern in Communications and Business Administration. All of that was affected by my schooling. I went to Alaska 3 days after high school because my dad could not find anybody to employ that would not break his trucks that he had to take to Alaska because the economy had just totally busted down here. And he moved all of Seven Seas Construction, if you know that name, up to Alaska to take care of the family. So I made a bet with him at Christmas dinner that I could do that. And I could go drive a dump truck in Alaska and make myself money for college. So he said, well, I'll buy your ticket up there, you buy your ticket back if you can't muster it. 3 days after I graduated from Deer Park High School, I was on an airplane to Alaska. I learned how to drive a dump truck, not from my father, because we would have killed each other, but from somebody else. And eventually, I went on to teach two of my sisters that came up for the summers for summer money to put themselves through college as well, and how to drive a dump truck, and we made our father mega money. The gender pop up there ratio was 6 men to 1 woman, and we were young and cute, and so we got 2 loads to every one of theirs. Well, so we made quite a bit of money. And then I came back down, we'd come back down, and I went to Eastern Washington University for my early education, right out. Well, I ended up going back up there because I had met a man, and I got a job, and my first job, well, in that area was at Alaska Refuge, Anchorage. It's Anchorage Refuse and Recycling. And I ended up being the secretary to the owner. And it was because I had 10 key skills. And I could type, and I could write letters, and I made really good money coming out of high school doing that as well. And then I eventually had children and stayed home with them. And then Brad and I, my parents moved the company back down here when the economy started to become better, but I stayed in Alaska. And we came down in 1991 after our second child was born and took over Seven Seas Construction. We've been running it ever since. And I was in drill team in high school and made the mistake of going to the grocery store when I came back down. And Dorothy Lind, which sewed the uniforms for the drill team, says, how would you like to help with Miss Deer Park? And there you go. So I have been a major community advocate all along and a business owner. And I have appreciated working with you over the years, Travis. And what I'm getting at is our future. Since I've been here, I've worked on the business side, the community side, the school side, bonds, all of the whole gamut. It's been a wonderful education. And that's why I went back to college. I didn't do it all right after high school. I ended up going back when I was 28 years old. And it was wonderful to go back as an older student, I have to tell you. Because education does not look one way. Learning does not look one way. And going forwards with our superintendent search, Travis has filled that hole that you wanted him to, and taken us to the next phase. And that's what I've learned through this is a good superintendent doesn't stay too long because you have a set of skills and you capitalize on those and you build on those, just like a business. And I want to see us looking towards more trades. 12, 15 years ago, I was sitting there at City Hall with Kathy McMorris saying, if you do not get the trades going, we will be short on truck drivers, we will be short on all of this stuff. And going right out of high school, I drove a dump truck. I put myself through college. There's nothing shameful about that. And the whole point is I also have the other side, the office side. And a business takes both sides. We don't need just the office people. We need the people making the product or doing the service. This is a team, people. You know, the school district's a team with the city, with the businesses. And I've been so fortunate to work with the city in the last 25 years on the next part, where we're going. We saw us building because we know we're a diamond in the rough here. We're amazing, Deer Park has been and is wonderful. We have about 400 acres out there at the light industrial property between the airport and the golf course. And I'm sorry I said it would be short, but I'm really on a roll here. And I want to tell you that over the last 20 years, we have worked to get infrastructure out there so we can start getting jobs. And we are there, and it's begun. And last year, we just finished a whole mile stretch of road that takes along Cedar Road that allows all the private owners and businesses to start building businesses here. My husband and I own 57 acres out there. And my dream is to make it so that we can have small businesses that are working together symbiotically, sharing resources and the information in this 57-acre park that we are building. This is not, we're really deeper into this, but I don't have the papers with me. But you'll see, here's the airport, here's all of the light industrial, and here's the golf course. And back here is that portion, and all of this is opportunity for all of your guys' kids to have a good life here. So what I'm asking is, I want to be on your committee. Okay, I'll be on another one. I love it. And if not, please just take this to heed. Really find somebody that can help us to that area that has the youth worth working with businesses in that scope. Because we need maintenance fixing on the buildings. I was looking at the thing and I was on a lot of those levies to get it at that point 20 years ago. And that's what I'm saying. We knew it was coming. Now we need these to pay for this. Okay? So, great things are coming, everybody. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Peggy, last time you and I chatted, that conversation you and I had, I ended up having with Chris Snyder, who was our CTE director at the time, who also has since departed. But good night to be here. Troy Hewitt, who is here, who's our current CTE director. Put your hand up. There you go. You two are going to connect here real soon.
Yes,
Troy's making a note to connect with you because I think the conversation you and I have and the heart you have for our kids who are in those programs and want to take those skills into the workforce are the things that I know Troy and that whole team are working through. So.
Yes, and I hear, are you working with Andy at Northwest Steel Fab with welding and fabrication?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a gentleman that went to school here, Hank Moore, Bill and Flo Moore's son, has a machine business in Spokane, and he just bought land out here. And he's putting up 2 buildings. And he wants to work on an automotive, helping with automotive training as well. So that's where these partnerships are gonna, and we need, as businesses.
Workforce.
Yeah, I was raised with that thought of raise your children to be productive members of society. And whatever the production is, it's just a going forward, you know, and this is all part of it, so. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy. Rachel Rasmussen.
Good job.
Thank you.
Got my name right.
Sorry, make one mistake.
A lot of you know who I am. I work at the middle school. I'm a special education teacher. And I really just wanted to come just more for my own self and thank Travis for just doing a wonderful job and encourage the board that I've been active with the Loon Lake School Board and superintendent finding and principal searching and the pressure that you can feel and the, oh no, will someone come here? Do we this or do we that? And I just want to point out that we got Alexa, who's pretty amazing from the other side of the state. We can find people
Don't get scared and think, oh, well, we only have, this candidate pool right here. We need to make a decision quick. Just, as I tell my kids, just chill. And, I saw the option for an interim. That might be okay. Travis is here until July 30th, August 1st.
September.
Dang it. Anyway, I just wanted to encourage you to take the time necessary. Thank you for your survey. I was one of the people that filled it out, so thank you for that. And that's it. So I was a lot shorter. Yes, but good. No, you're fine. I knew. I'm going to make sure.
Good morning.
Deer Park High School.
All right.
All right, floor is yours.
I want to welcome everybody to high school. It's always good to have guests to you guys. What we want to focus on tonight, and we're going to move quick, but I brought some of our staff, and we want to give you an update on where we're going with High School and Beyond plan and where we've arrived. And I also really want to thank Tiffany. We have what we call a Stakes Leap team, and that's what we do is work on High School and Beyond planning and advisory lessons. But Tiffany has really been the leader of that. She has kind of taken our online piece of our High School and Beyond planning and then got it really organized so that they can make their changes and then get a finished product. So this is the first time we'll be able to roll this out this week at conferences, so we're kind of excited about that. It's really clean and good for the parents, so big kudos to her. But before I introduce her, to get to the end, and Peggy, it's good to see you, it's been a while, but to get to where Peggy wants, you have to have a diploma. And not a lot of people are hiring if you don't have a diploma. And the military is no longer taking people if you don't have a diploma. And so how do you get there? Well, you get there by starting as a freshman. And so one of my beliefs in my time here is that freshman year is critical if we're going to get kids to where Peggy said, get graduated and be productive members of our community. So I wanted to read you this. I read this to myself once in a while when I think I'm not on the right track. And this is an article from 2017. I first saw this, my brother, who is 72 years old now, graduated from the University of Chicago, and he's on a board that he interviews kids to get into the University of Chicago. So he got me on it. For years I've been on their website and I read this. And this one caught my eye because it was an article that was written in Clark County in the Columbian. And I also, my first teaching job was in Vancouver at Fort Vancouver High School. And so I thought, I'm going to read that. And it really reinforced for me how important freshman year is. It was a 10-page article. I'm just going to read you the first two paragraphs. Thank you. The name of the article is Ninth Grade Failure Rates Reveal Much to State of Washington and Local Educators. The stress of entering high school is something nearly all students face. The added workload, independence, and social pressures of high school can to some students be overwhelming. But for some, that stress can have sweeping consequences on the rest of their high school career and even their ability to graduate. In the state of Washington and in Clark County, roughly 1 in 5 students fail at least one core class in their first year of high school. So core classes would be English, math, science, social studies. So 20% of kids in the state of Washington back then, and it's worse now, 1 in 5 fail a core class. So the research from the University of Chicago in 2017 suggested students who fail even one core class their freshman year are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school on time. And it gets a little bleaker. Students that have a DF grade point average during freshman year have only an 18% chance of graduating on time from high school. It's pretty low. That's 1 in 5. So for us here at Deer Park High School, it's really important that we support freshmen. And we take a lot of our time and budget. We've built in a lot of safety nets. One of the things that we've done this year, because we had some extra money with the ESSER funding, is we have 1 extra math teacher. So in our algebra classes, we have 2 adults in there. We have a para, or we have SPED teachers that are co-teaching with our algebra teachers. And just going into classrooms, you can really see a better focus when you have 14 and 15 freshman algebra class as opposed to 32 or 33. There's nowhere to hide. And it's great. They're really focused. We like that. So that's been a very good program for us. And then every Monday, we have an intervention team. And what our intervention team does is that's led by Troy, our assistant principal. And every Monday, we talk about all kids, but we take time to focus on freshmen. And we talk about what's going on with our freshmen. You know, obviously, we look at risk factors like attendance and what's going on in their lives and health issues, but we just get down to grades, you know, where are they at? And Scott Carlson could not be here tonight, he's ill, but Scott is our freshman interventionist and he makes daily grade checks, and every Monday he brings in data about where our freshmen are, and then him and our freshman counselor, which this year is Glenn Poland, they meet with those kids. Scott calls them in here to the library, his office is right over here. He tutors those kids. He works with Leslie Hiltz, who's going to talk to you in a little bit about what lab programs we have with those students. And we're really committed, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, but we're really committed to getting those freshmen through. And what we found in my experience is the freshman year, if we can get them to pass, and their sophomore year, we can get them through all the social things and getting their driver's license. And they come out of that and they come back as juniors. Honestly, it's pretty smooth sailing. So we really focus on that here. I encourage you to ask questions, but I'm going to turn this over to the staff, and they all have a role in this, and we're going to start with how do we get kids to high school and beyond planning. So,
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. I'm Tiffany Vogel. I'm the business marketing teacher here. And hi, ladies. Some of my students back there. And so it's been a working process. This is my 9th year here, and I got put on the SAG leave. Joe has a funny way of throwing you on committees, and you just show up because you're told to.
you wanted to be on it.
Not really sure. They mess with you that first year. They just put you in everything, and you don't realize you can say no. But when we first came in, it's been a work in progress, and me, because I'm a little bit obsessive about getting things to be efficient because I come from the work world, it's been a dire thing where I was just like, do you guys mind if I do something and put it together, because it's driving me crazy. And so what we did is I put together, we decided that there are 16 lessons that are just absolutely crucial for every high schooler to go through. Because obviously with the different plethora of classes we have, it's really, really important that they get some of these basic foundations: resume, application, interview skills, personal finance, just some of those basic understandings of interest, stocks, all that stuff. So you can see the 14 or 16 lessons right here. You get 4 per year. And so we have a 50-minute advisory. So we've now switched to where your advisory teacher you get your freshman year, you stick with all 4 years. So even if I never have you in class, I'm your post-secondary teacher. My job is to make sure you have a plan for after high school. And it doesn't have to be college. It's one of the 5 pathways. We can do a 4-year, we can do a 2-year, we can do a technical trade, we can do a military, and we can just go to work. We just want them to have a plan, so we're not sitting on mom and dad's couch. We want them to start working towards that plan, start utilizing the courses that are here to even get them that much farther ahead. You want to go to the trade, then you better get in Kernan's Welding. You know, get yourself up on that trade list. So it's those things that every kid can kind of do. And so as a freshman, you kind of figure out what it is. We have a lot of online tests that help them find things that they might be interested in. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that to show you how their book, so this stays with them, they work through it, each one is sequential, and it's linked to their Google Classroom. I created a Google Classroom that had every single lesson at all times, because one problem with schools, we have a lot of people coming and going at different years, so what do? Especially if you've missed your whole freshman year, or let's say you're a sophomore, but you want to kind of jumpstart your resume. You now have access to all of it. So what I'm going to do is walk you through how this book follows the kids' freshman year. So this year's freshman class is the first one to get the book. Sophomore has had the same lessons, but they didn't have the book. So they went through the same lessons as the first 4, but their first 4, unless they kept those lessons, are gone. But now this is great because when they leave, they're going to simply graduate. So as they put stuff in the back, their resume, their graduation documents, they're simply going to take this, staple it, and then they're going to turn it in. And that's our file that we have to have for the state requirements, but then they can take this home. So when they need to look at what a cover letter looks like, when they need to look back at their resume stuff, they still have this. They can take it with them. And so, again, I created this to link to their Google Classroom and then also to their school data account. So that's where those preference checks and things are. So I'll kind of take you through a lesson. So we're going to pretend we are freshmen, and we are going through our lesson 2, L2, okay? So that's the reality check. That's kind of the the driver behind this, one thing that we all were in school, we all took those, oh, you're gonna be a police officer, you're gonna be this, right? All these tests. The one component they forgot to leave out was lifestyle. Well, if you want to live a frugal lifestyle, that's great. If you want to live, if you're like my oldest son who is brand conscious and wants to have everything at the top end, you got to have a lifestyle that supports that. You have to have a job or career that supports that. So whether you want to live a frugal lifestyle or an extremely expensive, ridiculous one, it's okay. We want you to be honest with that. But we also want you to be realistic about what that looks like. So I'm going to take you through the reality check lessons. So that's lesson 2, and that's also your blue or your yellow tab. So what's going to happen, again, they're in sequential order. This is their Google Classroom. So our school uses the G Suite, Google Suite, for everything, their Gmail and everything. So thankfully I have 4 kids in the school district, so it's easy to steal my son. So even though he's not a freshman, we're going to pretend that's his freshman class. So freshmen will have a class of 2026. So they're simply going to click their class of 2026. So when they go in, of course, there's all kinds of fun stuff, but this has really streamlined our ability to even do homecoming votes, okay? So we can put class-specific information. We can do emergency check-ins. If we have a drill, kids can go on there with their phones and check, I'm safe. It'll give us an instantaneous response of every kid in the school that has access. And then we go down and you're going to see graduation portfolios, which I'll show you that High School and Beyond Plan. Because ultimately the High School and Beyond Plan, which is the first page, is our graduation document that has to be on the file. It's tracking them to graduation, making sure they're fulfilling all their graduation requirements and also setting them up with their pathway. And so if you look down, and again, I kind of gave you a little cutout, so if you can kind of see here, this is their Google Classroom. So if I go down to 9th grade lessons, you can also see that there's 10th grade, 11th grade. If I want to go forward, if I'm that kid that wants to do something, I can. If I come late and I want to go back, I can. So when I go to lesson 2, it's very simple. Again, I tried to make it as user-friendly as possible for freshmen. Lesson 2, lesson 2. Pretty simple. I'm going to simply check lesson 2, and sorry, it's a little close to me. It tells you the full lesson. It tells you why we're doing it. Hey, make sure your lifestyle matches. So what this lifestyle, so it's telling you how to get to your lesson and all that stuff. It also gives you sometimes there's videos in here, but it also will also show you your worksheet you're working on to make sure you're working on the correct worksheet in your book. So if you're home or have an advisory teacher that's gone and you have a sub, you can still figure this out without your teacher there. Okay, so we tried to make it so no matter what teacher you had, you as a student still have the same access to everyone else. So here's how, the lovely thing about the Google Suite is it connects to all of their stuff, including their High School and Beyond Plan. So their High School and Beyond Plan is down in their Google Suite. Oops. Okay, so this is my son Liam's account. This is what he sees. And so what we're gonna do, and this again, the instructions show him to go there. The career planner, we're gonna go into reality check. So the reality check is kind of an interesting thing. It's going to have you go over location, expenses, education, occupation. It's going to give you a number. And it says, congratulations, your lifestyle costs $80,000 a year. Well, you might not be able to maybe make it as a concert groupie. So at the end of the day, your fun of your job and the practicality of your job kind of have to go together. So what they do is that they can go into locations, so you start here, maybe. And these are based out of everybody in Washington State. So what we try to tell the kids is, hey, if you want to live in San Francisco, then please pick Seattle as a comparable cost of living. So for example, if I wanted to pick Seattle, sorry, it's really close to me. Oh, there it is. Bellevue, Seattle. Okay, that one's an easy one. I pick location. So we just say if you want to live in a rural area, pick a rural area so we can get comparable cost of living. So now we get to pick our expenses. So they start with housing. Do you want to live in an apartment? Do you want to live in a house? We want them to be 100% honest. Where do you want to live? Do you want to share a flat with 6 of your friends? Okay, so of course, yes. Well, again, it's going to adjust for the city you picked. So is it perfect? No, but at least gives them a number now, where before it was just this beautiful dream of no numbers. So then you go through your utilities. Well, the first thing I tell them right off the bat, is you better change your phone bill. Because, and I'll say to them, well, you don't need a landline, you can take that away, okay? So you can still adjust. They kind of give you those numbers, but adjust. And the first thing I say, do you want the newest phone? Do you want the newest plan? Jump that up to $300 because you guys are gonna go crazy right off the bat. You know what I mean? So if you want high-speed internet, jump that up to $200. So just explaining to the kids, over budget your expenses, so you're planned for that. So anyway, they go through and they do all of these different things from entertainment and cooking. I love the cooking one. I flat out tell them, unless you are a professional cook, go ahead and dine out as your entire budget because none of you are gonna be cooking at home at first. And if it is, it's mac and cheese. But plan for the most expensive option so you really see what you're getting yourself into. So obviously you go through all of those, you get down to the end, and then you're going to go into education. Again, while you're in school, I tell them, if you don't want to do any school after high school, please put that. You know, if you want to say, I'm willing to give, and we're not talking about school, we're talking about any type of training, apprenticeship, military. If you're only willing to give 3 months to do some little kind of food preparation thing, then do it. Please be honest. If you don't want to go to school for 5 years, don't put that. And there's a reason why we say this to them. So we go into occupation. So now they can pick a career field, and part of those tests their freshman year in the same system shows them, you know, like you would do really well in carpentry, because they do tests for it, okay? So let's take education and training. We'll just go ahead and pick that one and hit next results. And this is all on the back of that sheet for you. It's small, I'm sorry, but it is there. All right, well, congratulations. There are no jobs that can fulfill your lifestyle, okay? So needless to say, what this ends up doing a lot of the times is okay. So obviously your lifestyle is not realistic for the little amount of education or training you're willing to give. So go back. So right here, they can do some quick adjustments. I didn't finish my expenses, that's probably why.
Hey, Tiffany, while you're pulling that up, is that like real time? So is that 2023?
It is through this is a company, a third-party vendor we go through. And so I believe they update it and the more they have people, the more they're updating it.
Thank you.
I would say it's definitely not perfect, but it's giving them something to talk about.
It's not 2010.
Hey, so my lovely decision said my annual salary needed is $80,000. Okay? Well, the unfortunate part of that is for the little bit of education and the city I want to live in, it's just not happening. So now let's look at, now I can go back, I can change my food, I can change my house, I can change all that. I'm gonna go to, I'm willing to give 5 years. Oh wait, now a couple things start popping up. Or maybe I wanna change my location. So now I'm starting to see career fields that might pop up. What am I willing to say? So maybe I change my career field completely into finance. You know, is there anything in that vicinity, in that area of Washington State for what I'm willing to do? And so if I go back to where it was just at, and I decide, ooh, college and university administrators, I want to be one of those. Now I can dive deeper into that career, okay? And so the idea is freshman and sophomore year especially, they're using this reality check to say, hey, this could take care of my lifestyle, could support my lifestyle. It's in the job things. Now, where do I find programs? How do I get in? And so we start linking them to those things so they don't wait and then miss the opportunity to go because, so this immediately, so let's say you want to be in a VISTA alignment, a foreman lineman. My brother's one of those. It's going to link you to a VISTA lineman school and it's going to tell you what you need to get in. So your junior and senior year, you will start to coordinate with that. So the first thing on their senior year, for example, is a senior checklist. So by this point, they should have an idea of what they want to do, the programs, and now let's look at due dates. When is your application due to get into a VISTA alignment school? So they're doing this as their lessons, if that makes sense. So the idea is, again, just to keep them connected to all of those different things by utilizing school data, and then ultimately, coming back to this blue sheet and orange sheet, this is our high school and beyond plan. And to have a graduation requirement, you need to have a digital form. So I've created a digital form that Liam, for example, can go into his Google Classroom. He goes up to his graduation docs, high school and beyond plan. He can open up the digital form right here. He can also do it on his phone, very simply, where he can sign it, his parents can sign it. I've made him touch buttons. So all he has to do is open it, and they have the instructions on how to do this. Just to kind of show you how easy this is. Now we have a digital version, so we don't have to read the kids' handwritings. Plus, we have to have a digital form. So again, they can do it on their phone. If you can get a kid to do it on their phone, they will do it. So as you can see, I've uploaded that form and I've created it to be completely digitized, so they can come here and it's going to show you all the classes that fulfill an English credit. So again, it's yellow boxes. You're trying to complete the yellow boxes. Okay, and so you can put in all of this information. We can put in our test scores as we get them. We can put, are we college bound, are we not? We can check those boxes. Again, what pathway are we on? Are we technical trade? And we can even sign it right then and there. We print it, it goes into our student file, and the kid graduates. And hopefully with a plan and an application. So this is kind of the really big one. Have we submitted our application? If you're going to work, you still need to submit an application. So it's kind of just keeping kids accountable to that. So I'm excited for this freshman class to really see this come to fruition their senior year. But seniors that want to take advantage of it who didn't have this, can. They still have all of that. And that's hopefully what we're able to do with that. So I don't know what else we have, but I can turn it over to Leslie.
Before Leslie comes up, I just wanted to say our advisory, we landed on 8 50-minute advisories. And as you're aware, social emotional learning is a requirement this year. So 4 of the advisories we're doing high school and beyond planning, and 4 of the advisories we're doing social emotional learning lessons, and Ms. Bickley's kind of the leader on that. But I just wanted to thank Tiffany. She threw that all together this summer in like 3 hours. Is a working machine. So Tiffany, thank you very much. And now Ms. Hill's going to tell you a little bit how we place kids and what we're doing with our lab money.
Can I ask a question really quick, just because I'm a mom of a high schooler? Sure. Are the kids in contract getting this as well?
I believe so, and also Running Start, they just deal with
Okay,
counselors.
good.
But I would have to clarify with Joe specifically, but I'm pretty sure that they do. I know Running Start kids do, and Darren has all the same information, and I know he's requested codes for me, so I'm pretty sure.
The answer is yes. They all we
Yes.
do the same thing across the board.
Oh, you're fine. Nice job. So, for those of you that don't know me, and you do, I'm Leslie Hiltz. I am the lab coordinator. I do a whole lot of other things. I did not bring spreadsheets to show you because I didn't want to look at all the spreadsheets that I put together. One of the things that I do with the lab coordinator job is I'm a huge freshman fan. Believe it or not, I taught freshman English for 20 years. I have always loved freshmen. They're like little puppies. They're like trying to herd cats, but they're a lot of fun. And so that's really kind of my heart when I'm working with the lab jobs that I do. So I put this together because it really, as I was thinking about it, when Joe asked me to talk about this, I'm like, it's kind of an umbrella of a lot of different things that happen. Probably the biggest thing that I do is place those lab students, those students that are struggling in ELA or math. We do get lab funding for that, so we do have special classes for them. So they'll go in there. We have an extra parapro. The pace might be a little slower. There's just a lot more supports for them. The way I do that is I talk to Emily Rosenberger quite a bit in the spring, and we look at the spreadsheets of the kids, all the data, what their grades are, what their attendance is, what did they get on the SBAC, how is their iReady score, what do the teachers think? So we really look at a broad spectrum, sorry, it's been a long day, a broad spectrum of things before we decide where they should be placed. And so that's really the biggest piece that I do in terms of lab. I also do credit retrieval and some summer school stuff, but when we're focusing on freshmen, that's probably the biggest thing that I work with. And so
I'm just going to offer for those who might not be aware, when you're using the acronym.
oh, sorry, Learning
So,
Assistance
yeah.
Program. I apologize.
You bet. I know some people are.
Yeah, the acronyms in education, they are many. So the Learning Assistance Program. And if you're interested, OSBI has a ton of information about the Learning Assistance Program. Typically, we offer those monies through the secondary program, so 6 through 12, although you get lab monies in the younger grades also, but that we can have title younger, lab older. So if you really have nothing to do tonight, you want to look it up. It's fun. So I put this together just to kind of give you an umbrella of what we do. So the first thing, of course, is to coordinate with the middle school. Now, right before COVID hit, we were on a roll. I was so excited. We had several team meetings with all of the middle school, not all, but the ELA math middle school counselors, and just started, these are the things we need to do. You know, that last month before they come up here, you know, are there some strategies that you guys can implement so that when they walk in the doors, they're not completely confused when our teachers ask them to do something. And so then we got into that. One of the things I did not put on here is we run a freshman PLC or professional learning community once a month, and we get together and we talk with the freshman teachers. We talk about what's working really well with some of our freshmen. We talk about having some common strategies that we're all doing to help them be successful. And then we talk about some of the kids that are struggling. Typically, it's a lot of the same kids, but remembering what Joe mentioned about how kids don't graduate from high school if they don't do well their freshman year, that's the critical year. So we really spend a lot of time talking about how do we help these kids? How can they, you know, what can we do to help them be successful? So that's another piece of our umbrella for our freshmen. The other thing that we started doing is instead of our counselors used to just go down to the middle school and register the kids and talk about them, we now have a whole week where the kids come up in small groups. Our link crew, who is going to talk to you a little bit about that, they work with them, they meet students and staff, they learn, they take a tour of the school. So, you know, they have that week at the end of May going, wow, you know, we're kind of like we do with our, you know, 5th graders. We bring them up to the school when they're going to be 6th graders, so they get familiar with it. So the other piece of that that I'm really excited about is right before COVID, we started the Freshman Academy. And I know some of you guys, there's a little thing going around. You can see what the Freshman Academy is. So I did a lot of research, and one of the things that some schools implement is an academy or a summer school for freshmen. And we can offer them credit. We can give them only like a half of the credit. But if they are struggling, we really kind of try to target those kiddos that are struggling a little bit and encourage them to come to summer school. They do math, they do language art. Tiffany is one of my, yay, she comes and does summer school. Huge for them. Our first year we had only 6 kids, but every single one of those kids stayed in the high school. They didn't end up going to an alternative program, dropping out, going anywhere. They stayed in the high school. So I thought, you know, 100% success rate is pretty good. So after COVID, we're starting it back up again. I'll be going down to the middle school and trying to encourage a lot of those kids to sign up. Rachel's helped me with that too, encouraging those kids. We had quite a few this last year. I can't remember how many. They had a lot of fun. Tiffany takes them and teaches them how to do stag shirts and lattes and things like that. But they're also doing writing more. Yeah, it's an exciting program. So if you're around this summer and you want to swing by in the morning, let me know, because I'm excited about it. And so I talked about the Freshman Academy. Mr. Feist, you're going to talk a little bit about the freshman interventionist. So that's on here. We've got our link crew kiddos here to talk to you guys. Do you guys have any questions? Because there's a lot more. I'm kind of condensing a lot of what we do for our freshmen. Oh, we do have a homework center. That's for all the kids, but our freshman interventionist really encourages those kids to attend, and they get snacks. And sometimes they only show up because they want a snack. But that's okay, because I like giving out snacks. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So thanks, Liz. So
You gotta love them.
Leslie puts in a lot of work. She's done a great job with lab, great job of placing students where they can be successful in class, so we're not going back and taking them out of classes and putting in different ones, and I sure appreciate that. Mr. Carlson couldn't make it. I mentioned him earlier. Real quick, that freshman interventionist is also paid out of lab, so we use lab money for that. Scott does a fantastic job with that. Having both which is unusual. He is both math and science, so he is a math and science certified teacher. So that's really helpful, and it won't shock you to know that math and science is where a lot of kids struggle. So it's really nice to have him there. I'm going to introduce Ms. Demke. Turn the volume up a little bit. She brought some students with her that are going to help us out. So you can tell them about Link Crew.
Yep. All right. Hi. My name is Cheryl Demke, and I do a variety of things like Leslie. I do the online school. I also teach a leadership class, and I am Link Crew advisor. And I get to work with wonderful students like these. They also get to work with Ms. Bobo as well. But I'm here to talk about Link Crew. So Link Crew, a lot of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, it's a freshman transition program. And we've had it here at the high school. It's a national, might be actually an international program. We've had it here at the high school for about 15 years. Joe was instrumental. He brought it here at the high school. I've been one of the advisors for 5 years. And Leslie is actually one of the co-advisors as well. She joined 2 years ago, and then we have a third co-advisor this year, Brittany Schutman. And what it does is we recruit junior and senior students to work with freshmen. We actually try to recruit, we get nominations from staff, and we try to get students from the gamut in high school. We want a variety of students because our freshmen are a variety of students. So that's purposeful. We really want kids from all over. We have about 40 leaders this year, and we do a variety of things throughout the year that they're going to talk about. And I think that's it. I sort of cover what, so they're going to sort of tell you what Link Crew does with the freshmen throughout the year.
Yeah,
so it's all sort of stand off to the side.
Okay, so I'm Ella Kernahan. I'm Grace Martinson, and we're both seniors, and we're both coming to the end of our second year of Link Crew.
Yeah. And so Ms. Demke really covered what Link Crew is, but just starting at the beginning of the year, we as Link Crew host a freshman orientation, which is really on the day before school. We bring in all the freshmen that we can. We bring them into the gym, kind of bring a lot of energy, make them feel comfortable. And then we eventually split them up into bigger groups where a couple of our Link Crew leaders will be assigned a group. Their job is to take them into classrooms around the school, make them feel comfortable, introduce themselves, kind of break them up into those smaller groups so that it's not so intimidating. And then from there, we play a lot of high energy activities with them, kind of break them down a little bit, get them out of their shell. And then after that, we finish up with a whole school tour where really we just give them the opportunities to ask all their questions. And it is so critical that we do this at the day before school so that all of those jitters that they have, hopefully we can kind of resolve some of those a little bit. So then the next day they can enter high school a little bit more comfortable and a little more confident.
Yeah, and so then throughout the year we teach freshman lessons, and so this is when 3 to 4 leaders go into our Digicom and marketing classes, and we teach about a 20-minute lesson. And this year we covered goal setting, the power of influence, and the importance of not judging someone. You never know what battle somebody's fighting, so we try to really get that into their ear. Something we did this year was we had freshmen write down their goals for the second semester on a piece of paper. We then put those goals around the high school so that they can see goals that other people are trying to hit, and they can think, oh, I kind of want to hit that goal as well. And they can also be reminded of goals they set for themselves.
Yeah. And then leading on to that, we also do freshman activities where us as Link Crew, our advisors, reach out to the teachers and work with them. And our teachers pick out 2 to 3 students and bring them to us, and then we go out on that day and we kidnap them a little bit, pull them out of school at the end of their period, and then we take them with us. We go have lunch with them, bring them to the library, and then after lunch then we do just a quick little fun activity. There's no real lesson to it. It's just to kind of make them feel a little bit comfortable with their upperclassmen. Some that we've done this year is pumpkin painting, Christmas cookies, and then a pancake feed. So they're just fun little activities. They go with the holidays a lot of the time. And it's really more of an icebreaker, type of deal. And then again, they can ask any type of questions that they have throughout the year.
And why Link Crew works and why it's important, it is important is, I don't know if you've ever seen a kid be intimidated by you because you're an adult. We try to make sure that that peer interaction, that peer-to-peer is really important to us, because if you see something, say something, but a lot of kids are afraid of adults. They're very intimidated. So if we have that strong connection with those freshmen or with those sophomores that were freshmen the year before, then they'll come and tell us, or they'll come and talk to us if something's going on in their lives or if they saw something. So it's just really important for us to have that strong connection with those freshmen in those younger classes.
Yeah, so that's about it. Is there any questions?
One of the, that I forgot to say is that the leaders give up an entire day of their summer to be trained to do that freshman orientation. And then for each lesson that they do, those lessons come out of the Link Crew curriculum and they're trained for that. So we bring the leaders in before that and they're trained to do that. And so again, that connection, as you might know, teenagers don't always want to listen to us, but they will really tune into these guys and really look up to these guys. And again, especially when they can see themselves in that. And that's really why we tried, and I forgot to hand out these we have some pictures of some of the activities we did this year. You can see some of our freshmen interacting. And what would you guys say, like, when your experience with the freshmen this year, seeing them in some of those activities, what do you think, what would you say, the kids, did they like it?
It's definitely fun to put a personality behind a face. Being a senior, you don't interact with a lot of freshmen, and I'm really happy and grateful I've been in Link Crew to have those interactions with them. But you just pass them in the hallway every now and then, you're like, oh, they look nice, and it's just kind of fun to get them out of their shell to see who they truly are.
And they might not maybe remember all the names, but they remember. They say, I painted pumpkins with her, or I decorated cookies with him, or whatever. And we really, with those activities, we hit every single freshman in the school. So with those activities, we did every single lunch, and so by the time we did all those activities, every single one of those freshmen were invited to one. Now some opted not to come, but we didn't force them. We didn't actually kidnap them and force them to come, but every single freshman in the school was invited to come. So Link Crew is very, very important to that freshman connection here, and there's actually science behind that. So it's a really important program, and I'm glad we have it. And Me's amazing. It would be impossible if we didn't have amazing kids like this. So these guys are why it works.
This is the best part of the job, is working with these guys and bragging on them a little bit. So they were freshmen once, remember? And man, we had to work to get them through their freshman year. Look out now. They were both members of our state champion girls soccer team, and they were state champion 4x1. 4x2 relay. Tell them where you're going to school and what you're doing.
We're both committed to go play soccer at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which is located in Prescott, Arizona. So we're really excited. Ella is my best friend, so I get to room with her as well, and I'll be studying aeronautical science.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go for forensic biology, and I'll eventually get my pre-med through that, and then transfer to med school.
So what I'd like to, and then also today, I was having a conversation with Aaron Harris. And if you don't know Aaron, he's a very talented drummer, percussionist in the band, fantastic. Just had a ball visiting with him at the state tournament. He's been accepted to University of Washington, Chicago School of Art, and he's waiting and should hear back from Harvard this week. So he's not sure he can afford Harvard or go that way, but we're very excited. He told me today, I'm not counting on it, but he's pretty good, so we'll see. But I guess the point I want to make is we have a lot of kids that struggle. We have kids with different interests. We have kids that mature early. We have kids that mature late, but they all get where they want to be if they'll work with us. And I just want to give a big thank you to these staff members, because we have a lot of talented staff that do a lot of work. And this is great for me, because during the school days, sometimes you get bogged down and you're in classrooms, you're in meetings, you're doing lunch supervision, you're chasing freshmen around, and this reminds me how many good things we do during the day and how many great students we have. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you.
Link Crew helped my kids to come through high school and everything. When Molly, my daughter, got into college at the University of Montana, they had a similar program. So now she's a senior, she does that similar thing, take kids on tours and all that other stuff. So it's not just here, it was a great segment.
High school staff, Leslie, Cheryl, Troy, Joe, thank you very much for all your work. Very appreciate it. Well done. See, that's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
But if there's anyone that can do it.
Well, I do have a couple of visual aids coming up later. So.
Hopefully.
That's well said.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Primarily, I'm here to cover the condition of facilities report, which is a board expectation and policy, as well as a state expectation for us as recipients of state funding for portions of our school facilities management. As you have no doubt seen, and if anybody would care for a copy of the report, I have a couple of extra hard copies. I divided the district inventory into two different sections, defining those that are supported by state funding and in the school inventory of buildings with the state as core buildings. And those include Deer Park Elementary, Arcadia Elementary, Deer Park Middle, and Deer Park High School. We received state matching funds to build and then remodel these buildings. This is our most recent remodel, the one being wrapped up right now. This was completed in 2010 with state matching funds helping the cause. And then our most recent project is the additions to Deer Park Middle School. And so the report just basically outlines a little bit of history and a little bit of recent history on our buildings. And I won't go over that in detail. But wanted to give you an update on the middle school project. We were able to complete the second portion phases on that this last fall, be able to occupy that on time for the school year, and have had good feedback as far as the space and its design and function. I hope to have final closeout documentation in front of you as our school board for acceptance in the next month or so. We've had a lot of challenges throughout the project, mostly with supply chain issues and sourcing certain materials. And that continues to plague us, but we're operational with the building and just trying to finish up a few last remaining items, trying to clean up the documentation as built and that on the project. So hopefully we'll have that wrapped up and receive final billing from the contractor and move towards final acceptance of that project. With that, do you have any questions with regard to anything in the report regarding our existing facilities or their condition? I've got a couple of things kind of looking forward. Working with Brendan and Travis on ESSER funding. Now we're looking at ESSER $3 and trying to coordinate that. I met this last week with our mechanical engineers and toured our facilities, and they were the group that helped us do a condition report a couple of years ago. So they've been in our buildings, they're familiar with them, and they did the design work on the mechanicals for Deer Park Middle School. We are looking at doing some heating and ventilation updates to our buildings, kind of for a couple different purposes. One is to extend the longevity of our facilities and the mechanical equipment, but also to make those systems more efficient. As we're looking at the clean buildings legislation and the requirements meet that efficiency criteria. I'm trying to figure out everything I can to move us forward, to have more efficient buildings, to have more comfortable buildings. And I see the ESSER dollars, the availability of that, as well as availability of those funds as a real blessing that we can do that without additional debt, without additional cost coming out of our funds. So we're going to do everything we can with the means we have available to usher our buildings forward, replace some older equipment, and we're actually beginning with the administration Homeland building. Some of that equipment was installed in 1973, has a lot of miles on it. You can stand in the middle of the building and feel it shake. There's some things that are taking place there that are not ideal for teaching and learning or running an administration office. And so we're going to try to correct some of those things, move on to Park Elementary School and some of the performance issues we have with that building, and just get as much traction as we can with those funds. Travis asked me to speak on a couple upcoming projects, and one of those that we're excited about is the potential for a new high school football stadium, bleachers, and press box. So this is an image of Shayla Park High School and their field, or their grandstand. And this is the model that we're basing our estimates on and working towards. This is a 1,256-seat bleacher setup, and that's roughly about 350 seats more capacity than what we have currently. It also includes a new press box that isn't shaky and scary, and it's it looks similar to what we have, but it's a little bit longer and about 5 rows higher than our current setup, adding the extra capacity.
And I'll add real quickly, what I'm seeing on my screen and what's being translated on the screen you're looking at, it's actually quite a bit wider than it looks. So
the scale is a little bit off here, but it's only about 10 feet longer side to side than the bleachers themselves. The footprint is quite a lot larger because of a 53-foot ramp that goes off. In this case, it goes off on the right-hand side, and that's to make the bleachers ADA accessible. So it's wheelchair accessible. This is our current overhead shot. Thank you for Google. Of our current grandstands, and I just wanted to show this so you can understand a little bit of the background work and additional work that will have to take place as we prepare for and place the new bleachers. And one of the things that we're looking at is this will not take place, bleachers would not be installed until summer of 2024. The contractor and the vendor are basically sold out for this coming summer. We may get a call, but because of the amount of prep work that we'll have to do, I really doubt that will take place. As I mentioned, the new bleachers are quite a bit taller, so they'll extend back and take up a larger footprint. But in working with Joe and Cameron, athletic director here at the high school, and with Travis, we've been trying to plan for the future. And so we did that with the new lights that we installed and got going this last year. And we plan to do the same with this. We're hoping at some point to be able to replace this track with an 8-lane track. As I understand it, we have issues hosting events here because our track is too small. So we want to make room for that, and then we want to move the walk area, which people generally walk behind the bleachers now, and that becomes a supervision issue for Joe and his staff. So the plan is to move the bleachers back about 13 feet, and that'll give us room for an additional 2 lanes to add to the track and a 6-foot walkway in front of the bleachers. So that'll be between the fence at the edge of the track and the fence that kind of defines the end of the bleachers. That, coupled with the additional space required for the bleachers and the press box, moves this whole assembly about 6 feet past where the fence is currently. And the fence is right next to the trees. So It will involve removal of the trees and stumps. It will involve removal of the fencing. We'll have to bring in import soil and compact that to build a larger footprint, because there's a bit of a hillside that breaks off behind the bleachers. Probably involve Peggy and her husband in that process. And then reconstruct the fence and that to secure that once the bleachers are in. But, exciting project, a lot to plan for because of all the things that have to get moved out of the way. The contractor basically expects a clean level site ready to build the new bleachers on. So all of this has to go away. We have to do the site work and move electrical and some irrigation in preparation for that. So all things we're kind of putting into focus now and building the budget and schedule. So any questions about that?
So you said 300 more seats roughly in there. Facilities, the restroom facilities and everything we have. Say we fill that thing up, like I came to a football game last year and it happened to be little girl cheerleader night. And the whole thing was full of people. So I have no, and plus standing around, so I have no doubt that we can fill that 300 seats or pretty close. But we need facilities. So do our facilities meet that seat to seat ratio, I guess?
I believe the answer is yes for a short-term event.
Sure.
Well, if we have an all-day event, some sort of an invitational, where we have hundreds or thousands of people there throughout the day, because of the extra capacity, we may need to look at bringing in some porta potties or other facilities. But for a single event, it still is.
Good question. So for competitive purposes, obviously we want to keep the visitor side like as uncomfortable as possible. But do we have any thought into possibly enhancing the visitors side bleachers as well?
There's been some discussion about that, and I think for right now, this is kind of what we can afford to do as first step there. The lighting upgrade was required because we have lights that would be demolished when we do this next step. And so I kind of see the visitor side as step 3. If we touch that side, then we're pretty much required to update it similarly to this, not necessarily its size, but if we move it, if we change it, alter that in any way, then we do need to make it accessible from an ADA standpoint, which it is not, and neither is the current football grandstand. So it gets expensive very quickly. It's certainly on the radar. My hope would be that passage of bond and if things go well, that might be on the horizon for the same time period that we would redo the track.
Steve, could I just, the lights are fantastic. I mean, such an upgrade. But Steve's working on, for the last game, remember how they flashed when we scored a touchdown? That went out. So all the things we've done the last 5 years, we had more calls complaining why those flashing lights didn't work. I probably had half a dozen people call on Monday wanting to know. So hopefully we'd get that.
Who knew that our careers would end over disco lights?
Yeah.
Steve, what are we going to do with the existing bleachers? Can we, there's a lot of smaller schools that are at outlying areas. Are they safe enough that we could gift them or sell them at a greatly reduced to some other school rather than demolishing them or something?
ADA compliance.
Yeah.
That's why even if they had to add a ramp or something.
We would probably need to go through the surplus process with them. At the very least, those can be recycled. And there's a lot of materials there, but I don't know how practical it will be to actually reuse.
Just a thought.
I have one more thing about the trees. So on this list, trees in some ways, playing as a kid, but I totally understand. In washed out world, right, when you remove a tree, you have to replace a tree. We don't have to replace the trees and put them somewhere else, do we, since?
Not to my knowledge.
Perfect.
We
No, I do
haven't
love them.
on any of our other school projects.
It's a good spending.
Yeah, and to the best of my knowledge, these are not memorial trees.
We should be planting more trees, Steve, by the way. Personal.
Yeah, from DNR.
Before I let Steve sit down, just want to recognize, he did mention the middle school project. We didn't hire a construction manager. Steve did that duty for us in addition to managing our entire maintenance and custodial crew. Just does fantastic work, whether it's my text message at 5:50 this morning saying the bus garage needs heat, or whether it's snow removal, or whether it's issues in buildings, or you name it, grounds, facilities. Just continues to do amazing work for the school district and keeping our facilities looking great, functioning well. He's got a great crew of people that he works with, and just really appreciate all of his work and all the effort he puts into all the planning and all of the items that keep us educated kids. Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
I'm just curious if there's any future plans for improving the spectator issue at the girls softball field?
There's plans for new softball fields.
Oh, okay.
And so, yes, I think that would be part and parcel of that is all the spectator seating at the softball fields.
Part of the problem is we don't know those fields.
So Megan, if you would like to run a bond with us, chair a committee.
I just had a question.
Close the door.
Yeah.
So cross that threshold.
Don't tempt me.
Oh, it will.
I know, man.
Brendan is going to give us a quick enrollment update. Thanks for being here, Brendan.
Enrollment had a slight decrease, but we're still well above budget, so financially we're holding strong. Travis and I met with our auditors earlier this month to get our exit interview. This was a very smooth audit. It was nice because they were able to come on site for 1 full week. So they were crank everything out, get all the documents they needed instead of us just scanning them, folders and folders. Big kudos to the district office staff, Joanne, and Julie, Tara. They were able to provide all the documentation that the auditors needed on a timely basis, so the auditors were very thankful for that. We had no findings, so we're all good there. We are now beginning to move our focus to the 23-24 school year, so doing our budgets and staffing updates. Tara and I are meeting with the school admins in all schools. We met with the high school last week, and then this week we'll do the middle school, or the elementaries, and then next week we're meeting with middle schools to figure out what staffing needs they need, and we're committed in budget-wise.
Thanks, Brendan.
Is the new district map on the website?
It is, actually. Consent agenda.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to peruse the consent agenda? Any motion?
Move to approve.
Okay. We found out this year that we do not have to have seconds because we're not big enough. Our board is not big. So with that in mind, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right. We need to have a public hearing, so to discuss redistricting, which we're required to do by law every, how many years, every time they do a census.
This time there's a census, you got it.
So with that in mind, I'm going to close the current meeting. We're going to open for public comment, the redistricting, and you want to highlight that?
So as we do that, this announcement was posted a while back on the district website, mentioning the boundary changes that are proposed every 10 years. When the U.S. Census is completed, the districts must review boundaries of the board director districts. The key that you see in red there that you probably can't read is it says, please note this does not have any impact on school attendance boundaries. This process affects school board director districts only, not school district attendance boundaries. So each of the director districts that these individuals represent are reflective of the changes being reflected here. The other part that is mentioned in this description on the website is that here in Deer Park we have 4 director districts. You see 5 directors up here. So years ago the decision was made to have those 4 director districts and then 1 at large. So our current at-large director is Eric Keller. So when Eric is up for election, that board seat can come from anywhere inside Deer Park School District boundaries, not just within a particular director district. For example, most recently when Rick Schuler resigned his seat, we had to find someone in Director District 1. That individual is Craig Phillips, who's here now, but people who lived in other areas in the district weren't able to apply for that vacant seat. So that's how that works. The goal in the end, the other piece that you see in the table up that's up on the screen, it's been on the website for a little bit, is you're really looking for an ideal balance between those director districts. So we work with GIS specialists, people who specialize in mapping and demographics, and they look at the households in the district, they look at our district boundaries, and they end up coming up with the maps that help us really equal out and come up with evenly distributed director district populations. So that's the process that we engaged in. Even though at this particular time, literally when I say this particular time, I mean like within the last probably 18 to 24 months, we've begun to see a significant shift related to construction here in Deer Park. And certainly I think over the next 10-year period that represents growth, that represents the next kind of census period, we're going to see probably some significant shifts in population here in Deer Park. Director District 1 is going to grow even more significantly. But presently, we don't take into account construction that's slated to come or that's proposed. You take into account the population that you have. So what you would see if you were to click on the link that exists just below the table up there that shows the Director District proposals and that show the existing maps, you would see that there are really very minor tweaks to Director Districts right now to help us hit the proposed population or kind of that ideal. The ideal population split, the numbers that are up there show that we have about 3,096 residents in each of the Director Districts would be the ideal. And then the proposals for what has been shared with us and for what this board approved, Sammamish Data Systems, who we're working with through this process to actually approve. And then ultimately, bring it up. So each of those are our 4 director districts that you see there. And then this particular document that Sammamish Data Systems has shared with us, what you're going to see as I scroll down is we're going to be zooming in on the map. That's really the changes were made in this area right here. And what you're going to see as I get into the next page, you're going to see that this dark green line that exists right here shows where the old boundary was, and it's going to shift just below. So Director District 2 is going to grow just a bit as it slides just a little bit to the south. And then in addition to that, in the next screen, we're going to see how we have Director District 1 is going to shrink a little bit as this Director District comes across this, what used to be this boundary here. So it's going to shift just a little bit of population, catch some homes in this area here, come into what used to be exclusively yellow, or Director District 1. And then the final slide just shows on that same boundary line how it goes a little bit further south. So we get down to this area here, we get down closer to the edge of the district boundary here, and this additional sliver of land here. So really we didn't make any changes to Director District 3, which is essentially north of Deer Park, and we're dealing just with this area that's just south, south of Colville, and kind of just as we get down into this area that's, so right here is 395, so just to the east of 395 and just south of town a bit in that area right there. This proposal, again, makes very minor shifts at this time and also hopefully reflected ways that when they analyzed at this point, they recognized and we had sent them data about the significant growth. We're seeing homes in Chaparral Glen as well as homes down off of Colville. And so hopefully they'll be able to make modifications that would extend some of this in ways that would allow us not to have to completely change district lines, but simply expand certain areas. So they took all that into account as they went through the process.
Any public comment? Would anybody like to comment on the director districts or understand questions or anything about that?
So that's the map that's on the website?
Yes.
Your area has not changed.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I know this because she's my parents' neighbor. They
Cool. So,
So we haven't had any comment through the website or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
The last thing I'll share with you as board and what we have on that announcement that was on the website is tonight is the first reading of this proposal, so we accept public comment. If we get any dissent, any ideas that where things would shift, or someone has a concern about any shifts that have occurred, we certainly accept those tonight. Make our way through a first read tonight, and then we would ultimately accept these new boundaries as official at our meeting on April 10th, I believe. Actually, we're going to wait till April 24th because we have a work session on the 10th. So our next official meeting is on the 24th, and that's when these proposals will be made official.
wow, you guys are tough audience. Okay. With that, I'm going to close that meeting, close the hearing, reopen our general meeting, and we just need a resolution to pass the first.
Pass as proposed.
As proposed, please. Somebody.
I move we pass resolution as proposed.
All right, all those in favor say aye. All right, so motion passes. All right. So we're into our action items, sorry. We have approval of ASB fundraising responsibilities. Travis, can you?
Yeah, just so we have, in order to meet state law and audit requirements, we've got some guidelines. So we have Casey Aarons, who's going to be doing some fundraising in the youth camp. So we're just going to follow the process and make sure that that's approved by the board.
All right, with that, I need a resolution or a motion, please. All those in favor? Any comments? No? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. All right, before we go into executive session, I got a little thing I'd like to read. We'd like to thank the 400 plus comments that we got from staff, parents, community members, and other people too. I think we had some from out of the area who gave us feedback. We really appreciate that. We have a tough choice to make. A summary of the results is available on the Deer Park website if you want to look at it. It's really kind of interesting. Some of the comments were kind of interesting. After carefully studying our options past 2 weeks, we are going to take the interim off the desk right now. And we're going to move forward. We're not sure how we're going to do that. Tonight we're going to meet and we're going to talk about some candidates that we have in mind. After executive session, this is the choice I get to make. We probably will make a decision as to whether we're going to go forward with a search, or we are going to do or hire somebody outright. So we can choose to do that. Like I said, we have some options, which is really good because for the past 2 searches that we have done, we really haven't had options. We just took a search. So we will make a decision, but that decision could be that we're going to postpone it. So we're going to have an executive session for about an hour. And then we're going to come out, and if you want to hang out for an hour, you're more than welcome to. And if not, we will announce this. We put it on the website tomorrow, which way we decided to go.
So your decision is whether to hire immediately or continue, or not. This is who we want to hire.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can have an idea because we have some options in that way. But we will make a decision as to whether we're going to hire somebody directly or go through the full search for the thing, which could involve a lot of folks. So, with that, I think we are going to adjourn. And like I said, we're planning. It is 7:30 now. At 8:30, we will come out of executive session, but we might choose to extend that session at that point in time and keep going. So if you're still here at 8:30, I'd be happy to tell you we made a decision or we're going to extend that executive session for another half hour or whatever we need to keep moving to make the choice.
What I'll do, so presently, what's up there, you see the search survey feedback is the first news item on the website there. Click into there, it just gives a nice summary of the information that the board collected through the process of the 400 respondents. And then as Eric shared, based on whatever decision they come to tonight, we'll make sure and add a new news item to make sure people can access that on the website.
Okay. And our decision will be based on, we're looking at the credentials of the person. So we will make that decision if they're deeming that person best fits it and can move us forward to the next place, then we will, that's how we're going to make those decisions.
Make sure you thank the high school again.
Thanks, Tiff. And, I had 4 kids go through here. I love this place. I graduated from this building. It looked a lot different back in 1980. Wow. But, yeah, so.
Thanks everybody for being here.